Are you struggling with who to involve in your landscape plan? After watching this video, you will know exactly who the relevant stakeholders are in and outside your landscape. By using a practical tool, I will show you how to carry out a stakeholder analysis at landscape level. A stakeholder analysis is a methodology for understanding the stakeholder dynamics by identifying the key actors related to the landscape. There are different tools which you can use to assess their roles, interests, and level of influence. As you can see in this photo, stakeholder analysis is usually carried out in a participatory way, which means with a group of stakeholders themselves. So it is a perfect way to engage with stakeholders in an early phase. It is important to realize that it's not just the outcome of the tool that matters, but the process and the dialogue around this tool are just as important. Now, why do we carry out a stakeholder analysis? There are a couple of reasons. First, to better understand the landscape's reality. Combined with a landscape analysis, you will get a better idea of who the stakeholders are and what their relation to the landscape is. And this is key for the problem analysis phase. Perhaps you identify stakeholders who might not be involved yet. And you also need to reflect on your own role. Are you a stakeholder yourself or an outsider? How well do you know the landscape? Do you speak the stakeholders' language? Do you know their culture? Second, it helps to create a mutual understanding, especially if you carry out an analysis with diverse stakeholders. They are able to share their perception on the issues as well as their interest and their needs. By sharing this face-to-face, the level of mutual understanding is often bigger and people might already find common concerns in the landscape. Another reason to engage is to create a sense of ownership. You could decide to carry out a stakeholder analysis behind your desk in the capital, but if you invite stakeholders to participate in the analysis themselves, you will create a different atmosphere. People feel heard, engaged, and this will give them a sense of ownership. A fourth is addressing challenges and opportunities in an early phase. What some stakeholders might see as a challenge might be an opportunity for others. This can give you an insight into who will benefit from any given activity and whose interest might be harmed by it. Now, how do you carry out the stakeholder analysis? There are a range of tools to use. Think of participatory role appraisals, rainbow diagram, spider diagram. You could choose one or you could combine some of these tools. There are no predefined rules. However, from my own experience, I would encourage you to do it in a participatory way. Depending on the sensitivity and the power relations of your issue, either carry out the stakeholder analysis with one stakeholder group at a time or invite different stakeholders at the same time. But ensure that everyone takes part in the exercise. And this means that the facilitator plays an important role in this process. I also invite you to be creative. Use big posters, use colored cards, use colored markers. People often enjoy this and you can immediately see the results. Lastly, take some time to reflect on the analysis and ask people to share their observations. This dialogue could be recorded as well, as this can provide important information. The tool that I want to introduce in this video is called the Interest Influence Matrix. And it works as follows. You see two axes, the level of interest and the other one indicating the level of influence. You put the main issue in the middle, which you identified during the landscape analysis. This could be a land degradation, could be drought, or something broader like decision making on climate change. The next step is to write down all the stakeholders who have a stake on this issue. Write each stakeholder on a separate card and try to be specific. Don't write down government, but be more precise, such as the Ministry of Agriculture or the district government, because their stake might be different. Then, based on group discussions, you're going to place each stakeholder in the matrix, according to their level of interest in the issue, over here, and the level of influence over here. How much power do they have on the issue? In reality, it could look like this. The issue in the middle and all the stakeholder post-it cards. Okay, now let's reflect a little. The stakeholders in the upper left corner are the ones with high interest and low influence, and they're often referred to as the victims. In the upper right corner, you have those with a high interest and high influence, who are often the ones that can make a difference. In the lower right corner, you have the low interest but high influence. These are sometimes seen as the irresponsible. And lastly, we have the low interest and low influence, who are the bystanders. Now, who would you engage when designing interventions for your landscape? I would say the ones with high interest for sure. These stakeholders have a lot to win and a lot to lose. The ones with high influence are also relevant because they can either make or break your plans. The bystanders, however, should not be dismissed. They might be engaged on certain specific strategic moments, but they're clearly not the most important stakeholders. Okay, to summarize, the reason why we carry out a stakeholder analysis is to avoid this. This is not a fair game, right? But this often happens in reality. We need to level this playing field so that everyone's voices are being heard and their needs are taken into account. Engaging different people in a multi-stakeholder dialogue in an early phase is a way to do this. And a stakeholder analysis is an effective tool to realize this.